Hello, Kitty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the season, not series, the season finale of Showa Station. My name is ELH, the Game Master, and joining me are a lovely group of individuals who will be reprising some roles and will be introducing some new ones. And what I mean by that is, hey everybody, it's your favorite time of the Star Trek Adventures campaign, court martial time. Everybody loves a court martial. Everybody tunes in for the court martial. So yeah, we're going to have one. But you'll have to figure out for what in play. In any event, in terms of announcements, next week we will be off for Showa Station, and then depending on Rockette's availability on the 23rd and the 30th, we might be rolling into Season 2 on one of those days. But again, I want everybody to be here, so we'll just sort of play it by ear, and it'll be one of those days, maybe. Worst case, February, but whatever. Other than that, the only other announcement I have is that Star Trek Aegir, the new Tuesday game, starts on the 17th of January. So look forward to that as well. You can already see the opening narration, opening trailer on my YouTube. But I'm really excited to get into play, so let's get everyone to introduce themselves and we'll get started. So, Lone Squiff, what you got?
Hello, everyone. I'm Mal, aka Lone Swift Online, and I've been playing Commodore Taraz, who is very unhappy about her station right now. But I'm excited for some courtroom drama.
Tad, what you got?
I am Ted Baines Alex. I play Commander Callahan, and I am just tired of everything seeming to go wrong recently.
Rockette, what do you got going on?
Hello, everybody. As always, I am Rocket Fox, or for tonight, Rocket Cat. And if you ever want, you can find me. We are now back on Thursday evenings over on Sirenscape with Cyberpunk Red. The gang's all back. And then Fridays, I'm over on Trooper SJP's channel where we're playing Traveler, Pirates of Jernax. And there's a lot of mischief everywhere. I think pretty much everywhere I go, mischief follows, and I kind of am for it. And then as far as tonight goes, I am your friendly and only moderately knocking things off the table-y Cation security guard, Shishi.
Very nice. And certainly last but not least, Ars Animus, what you got going on?
Appreciated. Ars Animus, otherwise known as Katie Cody. I play the Lieutenant Commander Vakoya, the Chief Engineer, the Coordinate Chief Engineer of the station. And other than that, I've been addicted to some console games recently. So just been enjoying holidays break. It's nice to be back, though, for sure.
Love it. All right, let's get that intro video going. All right, and welcome back. Now, normally, I would have one of the players do an opening narration, but really the best opening narration is going to come from me on this one, because if you haven't watched the most recent Drake, the season finale of Drake, well, let's just say Showa Station had a battle, a very important battle, and the players before you are just now returning to the scene of the crime. So I want to set the scene here where we have Showa Station in mostly one piece. Part of the docking ring has been cut out as if it were a cake slice, and it is actually being tractored back into position via some worker bees. We see that there's a wide debris cloud around Showa Station itself, not just from the station, but from a myriad of Klingon vessels, from Tholian vessels, And policing the wreckage and helping putting back the station together are 3 Shepherd classes, the USS Shepherd, the Gagarin, and the Kerala. And then we have a McGee class, the USS Shran. And if you look very carefully in the distance, you would also see a certain USS Drake very, quote-unquote, casually leaving the scene of the crime. But something we did at the very end of Drake and something that Lone Squiff specifically requested is the Commodore beaming back into what remains of Showa Station's operations room and saying that their office is, yeah.
Alrighty. So yeah, beaming in, immediately turning to look at ops. Wazowski, what happened to my station? Put that docking back where I found it, or so help me.
We're putting it back. I swear it. Okay. Yeah. Your office, and he like points, and like half of your office is just exposed to space. Like it's just open. Which you would also note, your model is no longer in there. Your model is gone wherever it is, somewhere out there.
Oh, that seems safe.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, not in one piece.
Maybe. But once you finally get to the station, and of course the rest of you will get to you in a moment, but as you start to more or less get a feel for what happened, Wazowski turns and says, Commodore, we're getting a hail from the USS Drake. Would you like me to, well, I would put it through your office, but your office is, I'm just going to put it in on the view screen and shut the hell up. And disembodied voice, would you care to speak your piece?
Commodore Taraz of the Space Station Showa. This is Captain Drake, Captain Thalen of the USS Drake.
Captain Thalen, are those your TLXIC fleeing my station?
Those are my impulse manifolds, yes.
And what can Showa do for you today?
I just wanted to see how you're doing on your return. Your space station is mostly intact. You're welcome.
And did you have something to do with that?
We definitely had something to do with it not getting destroyed. We managed to get here just before the Klingons and Tholians did. Your station was in some pretty rough shape right before that. We patched her up as best we could, kind of got some of your people back with our medical teams. And if it weren't for the other Shepherd class ships, I don't think we would have made it.
And what about the Drake? Is she in good shape?
There's a long pause. She's in good enough shape, but we need to get to Starfleet Command to report in. I'm under the impression that Command thinks we're dead.
Well, there had been some conflicting reports about that. I know we have been curious, so it is good to see that you have at least been found.
Indeed.
Welcome back to Federation space.
Thank you, Commodore. I hope that you can get your station fixed up well enough, and perhaps the Drake will come visit again at some point under less dire circumstances.
Understood. If you wouldn't mind, any information you could send us regarding the attack. I'll see what Vokai can do, integrating it into our ship's computer or what's left of it.
Of course. Lieutenant Zygen, transmit the information.
All right.
Have it shortly, Commodore. Drake out.
And then the Drake goes to work before anybody can call them back, because that's just how they roll. All right, so while that's going on, as I said, we're going to go to each of you in turn. So, Cad, where would you be beaming into the station? What would you be checking in on, etc., etc.?
I would also probably go into ops on
Okay,
there.
so you hear
because-
most of that.
Yeah. I would then ask around, like, status report. Anyone, tell me what's going on.
All right. Well, since we're picking on Wazowski will report to you. Well, sir, the attack started when the Klingon ambassador and secretary tried to break into ops here and I guess implant a virus of some kind, but when we fended them off, that's when the first wave came in. We took a beating. That's kind of why we got that slice in the docking ring out there. What else? We can't find our CMO. We had to rely on DARS at the clinic. But I also understand that Drake's CMO came over and was actually very instrumental in saving Ambassador Savi. Narrator note, Savi is your Vulcan ambassador. Very important figurehead. But aside from that, we've got the Shepherds in the area. We've got the McGee in the area. We've got Captains Johnson, Richardson, Varee, and Zazar all sort of standing by, waiting for somebody to tell them what to do. But I think for the first Battle of Showa Station, we did pretty well. Even though you kind of weren't here, maybe.
So, can you please send a transmission to those ships and request they send somebody aboard to debrief the command staff at Showa Station?
Already done, sir.
Very good, Wazowski. I don't care what they say about you.
What do they say about me?
Can't say. The Commodore's right here.
I just kind of look over, do the eyebrow raise. I'm getting a data pad and I'm going through reports.
Okay. I'll be here. Not holding the station together or anything. I'll just be here. Alone. In the dark.
Turn off the lights on the way out.
After this, I will make my way to the promenade. I'm guessing I have my young Kozo youngling with me.
Yeah. So what I would note is that the promenade it's taken a beating. I mean, you've got scorch marks on everywhere. You've got discarded bat'leths that are still being gathered. You've got wounded that are still being treated at the clinic. But it definitely looks on the repairing side or the getting back to normal side of things where it's just a matter of cleaning up things at this point. The worst of the damage has been handled. Though, unfortunately, I must report that your most favorite place on the promenade, Funland Place, the bowling alley has been completely destroyed.
No!
Oh, this is just, the news keeps getting worse and worse.
So show us struck out.
You mean gutter bowl.
Lots and lots of gutter balls.
Yeah, not the bowling alley.
Oh my god.
Our dirty Tholians!
We still haven't gotten how Shishi's gonna feel about all this, so.
No, I got one for you too.
Soon.
Got one for you too. Oh Lord. But yeah, your youngling, what do we call him? Zim. Zim is mostly just kind of pointing at things, asking, "Ooh, what's that?" Or "Ooh, what's that?" And "Oh, what is that person? That's someone looking new." Kind of a thing. And they're just being, that animate kid in a candy store, doesn't know any better, can't read the mood, etc., etc.
I'm enjoying because everyone does seem so clever. It's nice to at least hear some happiness going on here.
So while that's going on, let's go to Shishi. Shishi, where would you be beaming into the station, and what are you checking in on?
So immediately, Shishi would beam into the security office, and the security office is right off Promenade. So very quickly from there, checking out the room real quick, but then immediately going out onto the Promenade and seeing what everyone's doing out there. Would probably run out. I imagine there's still security minions about, moving around.
Yep.
And as one passes by, and as a reminder to everyone, she's about like 7 feet tall or so. She would grab one kind of by the front of this and like kind of lift a little bit. What happened here?
Well, ma'am, we kind of got attacked by Klingons and Tholians at the same time, and we repelled boarders. Actually, we did very well. We defended the station from not just one, but 3 separate Klingon invasion boarding party waves. In fact, if you look at in the brig, we've got them pretty stacked right now. There's a lot of Klingons in there.
oh, there. And she's kind of gonna just like not yeet him, but just gently toss him to the side.
Ah, this is my fate as a minion.
And yeah, I guess before rushing off to the brig, what I know that the promenade is not in good shape, so I think she's gonna go kind of check around and see what's going on with everyone, including the Ferengi brothers.
I was waiting for someone to bring him up. All right. So we've already talked about the clinic. We've got wounded, not just in the clinic itself, but also waiting for treatment outside. The most grievous injuries have already been handled, so it's not like people are bleeding out or dying in the hallway. As I said, Funland Place, been beaten to hell and back. You don't have a bowling alley anymore. But before we get to the Ferengi... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, just on that note, I would imagine walking around, kind of stop across a hall, possibly across the way, turn and look, and you get one of those like zoom in where everything else like goes real far out around Shishi's face at the sight of Funland Place.
Does the Kill Bill music play where it's like, or you know, when she's freaking out a little bit, when the bride is freaking out, just a little bit?
Oh, you see the tail twitching.
Nice.
Hair standing a little on end.
So, what else do I have? Oh, yes. So, your favorite Tellarite merchant, Wham. His stall is completely gone. In fact, there's just a charred mark where it used to be. There's no sign of him. And as you're looking around, you actually feel someone poke you in the back.
My God, they vaporized him. And then she'll turn around and look.
No, unfortunately, I'm still here. And when you look, Wham is now in a wheelchair. He's actually missing his left leg.
Oh, my word. You're a little less than last I saw you.
Yeah, go ahead, get it out. I don't have a leg to stand on. I can't stand up to you. Whatever, just get it out now. Just come on, get it out.
I would never kick someone when they're down. So
Good,
much lower
because
than
I
they
can
used to
only
be.
kick back half as well, and it sucks.
What happened to you? And she kind of gestured, not really smooth and uncomfortable situations, but kind of gesturing at the missing leg. What occurred here?
Well, believe it or not, Klingons boarded the station in my stall. So they literally transported on top of me. So that was fun.
Oh my word! Are you? Well, are you well enough?
I mean, honestly, like I said, the reason I wanted you to get it out because the doc says, or at least Dars says, he can get me a prosthetic. So I'll be able to actually make all the jokes about standing up and all that soon. It's just, for the moment, he's kind of busy.
Yes, of course. Well, what are your plans with your stall?
Rebuild it. Put in a bit of a anti-Klingon security model, if that's okay with you. I'll run it by you so you can get the protocols on it. But yeah, just gonna rebuild and charge Klingons 300% from now on.
Yeah. Well, I see you'll be sticking around, which is as tenacious as I would expect from someone who's like a bad cold.
Well, let me just say that as much as I like giving you shit, Shishi, that your Shikiri minions actually did pretty well, especially with that, what was his name? It was a commander, something from the Drake. Don't remember his name, but under his guidance, they performed admirably.
Well, I shall punish them less in that case.
Yeah. You ever thought of rewarding them?
No.
Yeah. Saw that coming.
So she would kind of go off toward, at that point, kind of spin off, go off toward where the Ferengi brothers would have been. And then as going would kind of stop another minion going by.
Mm-hmm.
You there. What do they call you?
My name is Timothy, ma'am.
Timothy. Well,
yes, it's my
Timothy.
father's name. I'm Timothy III.
Well, Timothy, as it were. Look, I'm going to need you to grab a few of the minions and make quick work of redoing the stall over here.
Wham's stall, ma'am?
Just don't say anything about it. And I'm just going to keep moving over toward to check out other stuff.
Okay. Because I think I have a feeling Vokaya's going to want to check in on the Ferengi too, but let's make sure. So Vokaya, where are you beaming into the station, and are you actually checking in on the Ferengi?
Yeah, so I would have. You said most of the like severe stuff had been taken care of, right?
Correct, yes. The good news is that the way Drake left things is that you're down a communications array at the moment, but your shields are working, your weapons are working, your reactor's doing fine, not in any danger of breaching.
Right.
In fact, during your absence, if you remember Chief Petty Officer Gina, the Orion engineer who you used to... well, you had a talking to them based on the fact they worked for Starfleet Intelligence and they
Right.
did the model. They actually stepped up in a
Also
big way.
vouch for them too. Yeah.
They stepped up in a very big way. And you
Right.
would get all this information either through them or through one of your minions in engineering.
Yeah, so perfect. So to that point, knowing that like anything serious would have already been buttoned up, I would have just checked in. Like she would have checked in with her engineering departments, heads of staff, Gina, got the reports, all that, to make sure that any senior checkoffs I visually would have to go see, I would be able to start going through that information. But yeah, she would also be checking in with people on the promenade. She also left her some property with the Ferengi brothers, so she'd be checking in with them.
Okay. Then Shishista and Vokai, you're going to arrive more or less at the same time at the Ferengi Brothers stall, and it's the most immaculate thing in here. It doesn't look like it took any damage whatsoever. And the merchandise is probably the kicker to all this, because it's no longer just, like, I've been to Showa Station or Showa Station Official or some really tacky kind of clothing line. Now they're selling these big banners that say, I was here for the first Battle of Showa Station, or I survived the first, or, and there's like a coffee mug too that says, I came to Showa Station and all I got was a batleth to the gut. That sort of, really kind of tacky nonsense that they're settling. And actually,
Where are they?
They are actually selling like they are. It's weird. Like, you'd expect somebody that doesn't have the mindset to think, hey, this is a tragedy, why are you profiting off it? There's a line that almost goes around the promenade just to get through the station.
Of course there is. Of course, the people love this kind of thing.
People love it.
They love it, yeah.
Yeah, no, cutting the line. She's going to walk right up to them. Tell me what I'm looking at right now.
Well, you're looking at Ferengi Rule of Acquisition number 25. Or was it 36? Whatever. War is good for business.
And I wonder, if you had nothing to do with any of this, how your stall managed to remain so immaculate.
Well, when the Klingons came running in, we kind of offered them coffee, and they took it, and they didn't realize the coffee was drugged.
She is speechless that they did a thing that actually ended up being useful.
You're saying you purposely drugged them? No, like knowing they were going to cause issues?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're Klingons. They're gonna come on the station and mess things up. So, because we were Ferengi and we were neutral, we thought to ourselves, hey, how do we help out the station? And, brother and I just kind of thought to ourselves, and we remembered Rule of Acquisition 133. And then there's a pause.
The goodness of your heart?
Yeah, there's one of those pauses. They both look at each other and like, was it 133 or 134? I don't know. Rule of Acquisition number 133. Always drug the Klingons. Or something like that. I don't know. The rules of acquisition are always fluid and changing.
Remind me to never buy any coffee from you, but...
Well, that would be Rule of Acquisition number 203. Never take coffee from a Ferengi.
Well, as much as it physically pains me to say it, that's some fine work.
You hear a beep. All right, I got it on camera. Or I got a microphone capture. We're good. We're in the clear. She praised us for once.
She's gonna reach over and grab like just a coffee mug that says something along the lines of, I was here for the first battle, and just like take it and walk away.
Then the Ferengi brothers turn to Vokai and they say, Lieutenant Commander, I suppose you're here to check in on that thing you left us, yeah?
Yeah. Is it still safe?
Oh, yeah. We hit it part of the stall. It's all good.
She like reaches down and grabs like a little terrarium that has a Shiba lizard inside of it that she asked them to not only illegally trade here, but keep safe for her.
Yeah. As far as the only problem's walking away with a coffee cup, so I think you're in the clear.
And she like obviously with no like clothes or trench coat or anything to like hide it, just kind of holds it in front of her, like back to Shishi, and walks back to her quarters.
Nice. Now, I do have a complication from chat, and what that's going to mean is one of the 4 of your quarters is going to be damaged. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to roll for it. Now, we're going to go in order here. Commodore, you're 1. Callahan, you're 2.
My cat, no.
Shishi, you're 3. Vokaya, you will be 4. So I'm just going to roll a d4, and we'll see what happens. It looks like Vokaya, it's a good thing you left your lizard, because when you open your door to your quarters, well, the bulkheads have been sealed, but yeah, the right side of your quarters, which is where your dresser was and where your bed was, that's kind of not so great.
So I just like, look at it and like sigh. Like you can just see the exhaustion from like getting back home, and just like not even the bed is set up properly. Just sets the lizard down, gives the cage a little like hello, sits down on the bed, like pushes the rubble off, and just like passes out.
Nice. Love it. Now, this is an open question to anybody. Would anybody care to interface with the ambassador and or Commander Weakass? Because what you'll find out, all of you at your own pace, is that Commander Weakass was technically the ranking officer while you were gone. And for him to be the ranking officer meant you guys lost a lot of senior staff during the first attack.
We did not think that through.
I'll talk to him.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think she would also be going to see like any ambassadors and stuff like that, just to make sure everyone's in one piece.
Okay. Let's make it a senior staff meeting so everybody's involved. So it's maybe about 5-6 hours after you've gotten back to the station. You've kind of gotten situated. You've kind of gotten a lay of the land. It's 4 of you plus Commander Weakass and Ambassador Savi. And Savi actually looks way worse than what he says he is. Like, he looks like he's had brain surgery, heart surgery, gashes of batleths across his entire body, but he's in good spirits. Even for a Vulcan, it's very weird. But Savi is ironically drinking some Klingon coffee and goes, well, Commodore, I can't say that I agree with the fact that this happened while you were gone, but I will say that your officers and Starfleet performed actually very admirably in your absence.
Excellent. That is certainly good to hear. And what I understand, we have the Doctor of the Drake to thank that you're up and about.
Indeed, I've actually gone ahead and called back to Starfleet Command to ensure that they receive a medal for their valor and excellence in medicine.
There might be several in order for the crew of the Drake, based on what the reports I'm seeing.
It's at this point that Weakass speaks up and goes, yes, about that, Commodore. While you've had time to, look over the logs of the battle, I've had time to look over your report of what happened on Kojo Prime, and, he kind of scratches behind his ear a little bit and looks nervously around. I Unfortunately, as JAG officer of the station, it is my duty to inform you that in such a situation, well, if it had just been you away from the station, we might have been able to avoid it, but the fact that the attack happened, and you apparently are behind a civil war of sorts on Kozo Prime, well, I think you already know what's coming. We gotta do a court-martial.
Shishi would stand up and kind of like tower toward him, like bristling. You knew exactly why all of us had to go.
Oh, I'm quite aware of that, Shishista. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to have to do this, but it is protocol that usually there's an inquiry or some sort of hearing, at least for one of these things. If it had just been one, if it had just been Kozo Prime, or if it had just been the attack, we could have just done a hearing. But since they both happened, we have to do the full thing.
And you do realize...
Yes, because clearly we're in control of that.
Commander.
I'm going, but Kozo has been in civil war for checks not watch on the arm always. So why are you accusing us of starting one?
As according to these reports and the fact that you have a ward that's now hanging out in your quarters, you were instrumental in changing the balance of power.
You are instrumental in causing me a lot of pain in my butt.
Yes, not letting people be genocided is instrumental in the balance of power. That seems smart.
Well, I would save your retorts for the trial. I've already asked Captains Johnson, Richardson, Vary, and Zazia to be the judge, juries, and executioners, but consider this your official what's the word? Servants? He serves you. That's what it is. He serves you. Summons. Thank you. Consider this your official summons. The hearing will take place in 24 hours.
Traz, well, just simply nods. Yeah, I understand. Thank you, Weekass.
And at that, Weekass and Savi step out, leaving the four of you able to talk to one another and potentially yell at Weekass running away. Who knows?
I'm sure Shasista and I are very vocal.
Right. I find it very curious that this would have happened when all of us happened to not be on the station. Especially considering the Klingon weapons that we found on Kozo Prime.
Yes, the Kozo connection to the Klingons is not something we can overlook. We definitely need to assume that they will be working together until we have definitive proof otherwise.
And somebody's letting our information out.
Yes, we need to find this mole and silence them.
Agreed.
Okaya, can you look into this alleged virus that the Klingon ambassador put into our system? Compare it with the virus record that you had from before.
All right, Vokaya. It is going to be the first roll of the session. If you could give me a insight engineering, the difficulty will be a 2, and you have, by my count, 1 momentum from chat.
Can you guys hear me with all the audio issues I was having?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can.
Okay. I had to unplug everything, so I'm just built in now. Not sure what went wrong. Like everything just died for a second. So.
Tech issues, they happen.
Right. I'll deal with it on break. Okay, let me just pull everything back up now. Whoops. That wasn't me, was it?
Maybe.
If I accidentally pushed something I didn't mean to.
Yeah, you're good.
So you said it was a
insight engineering difficulty of 2, and you would have a focus for this one. And if you want to spend extra momentum, you do have one of them.
Yeah, so like I said, I couldn't hear majority of that. What exactly am I looking at?
The Klingon virus that the ambassador and their secretary were trying to install on the station as part of the first part of the attack. You're just comparing that to the virus that initially got you going towards Kozo Prime.
Which is different than the code, right?
Yes, it is different from the code that you gave to the Kozo.
Or the code that, like, was that they had messing with their bots in the first place?
No,
This
that
a
is the same
different
code. It's the same
color?
virus.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. All right. Inside engineering. I don't think I have a.
I think you got to focus for this one.
Yeah. Xenoengineering, maybe?
Yeah, the xenoengineering was what I was looking at.
Okay. Sweet. Because we don't. Yeah, we only have the one momentum. Do you want me to use the momentum or just roll straight Commodore? There's a chance I might not. I have a focus though.
Let's see. Well, Bokaya going over the code, and Taraz suggested it. They could go over it together.
That'll work. If you want to give me a presence engineering on your part, Taraz.
And then tap my spycraft focus.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we already have 3 successes for Vokaya, so you do get another momentum for your troubles. But let's see what the Commodore brings. Probably a complication. Nope, another success. You're up to 3 momentum. Very good. Perfect. So, what that's going to mean is, yeah, Vokaya, they're pretty much the same virus, but the one they tried to install on the station, a little bit more advanced. It's a little bit more, without getting into the weeds here, it's a little bit more mutagenic, I think is the right word to use here, where it's morphogenic, I think is the right word, where basically it was designed to squirrel its way into every single system it was connected to and take things down, whereas the initial code that got into the Kozo bots was meant just for the Kozo bots. So it's like it's a more generalized virus, if that makes sense.
It still sounds somewhat sophisticated. Does it seem too sophisticated to me to be Klingon manipulation?
Based on what you know of Klingons, yeah. Either they're getting help from someone or you have severely underestimated Klingons to this point.
Commander or Commodore, after looking at this code, it is based off the original code that we had, but it has been heavily, handily manipulated. I would say above a level of intelligence that the Klingons would have. They are still getting help, whether it's from the Tholians or somebody else as well. I'm not sure.
Well, they did attack in tandem.
It is curious the Tholians would ally themselves with anyone.
Agreed.
Is it known that they were allies? It wasn't happen to just be a coincidence?
That's what I've been wondering.
Was that a question for me or for everybody else?
I posed it to the group in character.
I'm not totally sure, but from what I've heard of Tholians, they don't really like to work with anybody.
They're very xenophobic.
Yes, well, the evidence also speaks for itself.
Yes, we have had some Tholian technology show up on the station as well. And then with the Klingon virus, I don't believe it's a coincidence. I'm very curious as to know how or why they're working together. In the meantime, Taraz is definitely going to be, now that is back on the station and things are sort of being repaired. Since we talked to the Drake earlier, I assume communications are back up.
It'll get you within the light year, not all the way back to Earth, but within the light year. Okay. Or if you really need to send something, you do have 4 or 5 ships that are out there that have working communications arrays.
What about that beacon array that the Drake put out?
Oh, the chain of probes? Yeah, those are still out there too.
Could we somehow tap into that to contact Starfleet?
Those are more just kind of a general broadcast. They're not really meant for full communication, but you could maybe get Vokaya to mess with them if you wanted to.
Okay. Yeah, Taraz definitely has a report to send to Starfleet. Just trying to figure out a way she could do that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot's been going on. And if there's a court martial in 24 hours, maybe we won't have a chance to. I think she will take a moment, between now and, this doesn't have to happen in character or anything, but like between now and the date that Weak Ass gave us, she'll take a shuttlecraft over to one of the other starships so she can, send a encrypted message off to Starfleet Command.
Okay. Easily done. Easily done. All right, then let's once again go down the line, see what you all are doing before we do the court martial. Let's start in reverse order. Vokaya, anything you want to prepare or anything you want to do for the court martial to come?
As Vokoya herself, in regards to the Commodore's court martial?
Mm-hmm, correct.
No, not so much. Like, I can't really think anything that she would really do in prep. She would just be doing anything that the Commodore had asked her to get ready. Otherwise, she's just making sure all of her, reports and logs and all that are at the ready.
Okay. Shishista, what are you doing, if anything?
Yeah, I would say about the same, although there's not as much report stuff that she could do. So she would probably go and check out the brig and see what the sitch is over there.
Klingons everywhere.
At this moment, I think would walk in and then just kind of turn around, walk out, and then go to her quarters.
Sounds about right. Oh, your cat is fine, by the way. The special cat that you got, your cat is fine. In fact, as a fun bit of flavor, your cat actually has a Dictag dagger that you don't know how it got it, but it's got a dagger from a Klingon.
I also imagine just like the cat wearing the little, the wharf thing that he wore.
The wharf bandolier, yeah.
Just like a tiny little bandolier too, just like,
It's canon now. It's true. Canon now. All right. So that's what she's doing. Callahan, anything you are doing before the court martial?
I'm prepping the station and communicating with the other ships for any possible counterattacks. Everyone's focusing on building, but I'm trying to keep everyone on that mindset that they easily could come again, especially since we do have a lot of prisoners, and coordinating with the ships outside, doing sweeping perimeters. So we have all sectors covered and just coming up with a plan of a counterattack just in case we get hit again.
Okay. All right. In that case, this is where we're going to take an early 5 to 10 minute break because I got to chat with the players a little bit, and we'll be back in about 5 to 10. Stick around. All right, and welcome back to episode 9, or the season 1 finale of Showa Station. And in his tradition on my channel, apparently one of the season finale tropes is that we run a court martial. And the reason we're having the court martial is because not only was Commodore Taraz away from the station when it got attacked by Klingons and Tholians, but some of the Commodore's senior staff might have been instrumental in causing a bit of an upset on Kozo Prime, thus violating a certain general directive that may or may not be named number 1. But where we resume our little bit of play is within one of the intact courtrooms that is on Showa Station. And Commodore Taraz, you are seated at the defendant's chair with your liaison, who I will play as needed. At the prosecutors, we have disembodied voice Peter, who is playing Commander Weakass, and I will play his assistant as needed. But then we have the panel of captain judges, and if Cad, Rocket, and Ars, if you'd care to introduce your captain characters, and then I'll take whichever one's remaining.
Yes, I'm Captain John Johnson of the Shepherd.
Oh, hey there. I am Cat.
Nope, the cat got you muted. Yep. Good job, Cat.
That was like a mute, unmute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Still muted?
Still muted as is tradition.
Captain, we cannot hear you.
I want this whole trying to mute with someone else across the table is annoying. And say, oh, hey there, I'm Captain Richardson of the USS Gargarin.
And I am Captain Varee of the USS Karela.
Mm-hmm. And then I will be playing Captain Zazir of the Shran. But yeah, Zazir is going to wait for the other judges to be seated. She will take a seat herself, and then she'll do the stereotypical kind of chime at the bell and says, "This hearing is now adjourned, or not adjourned, this hearing is now in session. We are inquiring as to the nature of Commodore Taraz's visit to Kozo Prime, as well as why they were not present during the Battle of Showa Station. Prosecution, who would you like to call as your first witness?"
My first witness, Captain, I would like to call Lieutenant Commander Volkaya.
Okay. And Volkaya will say you're waiting in the wings, so you're able to take the stand. You're read in, and then you are basically at the mercy of Prosecutor Weekass here.
All right. Yeah, she sits. I'm guessing there's the typical chair in the middle, right? Sits down at that.
Lieutenant Commander, it is my understanding that you have seen the code that was used to disable Showa Station.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with any of its component parts?
Intimately, sir. I personally altered the code.
So this is your code, or did you alter it from a pre-existing program?
From a pre-existing program, I was ordered to alter the code.
What was the origin of this program, if you would?
Correct me if I'm wrong, GM. It's been confusing. The origin of this code was from the bots, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, prosecutor, the origin of this code was discovered on some bots that were attacking the king on our station. And that's where we discovered it.
The origin of these bots?
We assumed they were from Kozo. They are Kozo bots from Kozo Prime.
So this code was from Kozo, modified by you, and then it was found once again on this station to have disabled her.
Not sure how that happened, but yes.
Prosecutor, Weekass, is it?
Yes, Captain.
Yes, I do have a question. I would be curious to know, where did the commander first encounter said code? And on whose authority or order, as it may or may not be, were they commanded to doctor said code that was discovered in one locale or the other?
That question, I'm guessing, was for me. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, certainly, sir. The code was pulled from some bots that had tried to commit a murder on some royalty that we had on the station. Under investigating the bots, we found some altered code within them. And under further investigation, that led us to investigate Kozo Prime. Under orders, I was asked to see if I could manipulate this code to further track the bots that had been manipulated on the planet.
And who gave this order?
The Commodore, sir.
Very good.
However, to be clear, the order to use the code was the Commodore. The order to change the code was Callahan.
Well, Commander, you seem to be insinuating with those lines of questions that the commander here had something to do with the code getting to the Cleons that attacked the station?
Yes, it was.
Sorry, okay, that was to weak S. That was to the prosecution. Your line of questioning seems to insinuate that the commander here was instrumental in giving the Klingons the code that infected the station. I can't be mishearing you, am I?
Not that the commander herself was involved in directly providing the code to the Klingons, but we do need to investigate how the code got to the Klingons. And if it was from the commander, then there was some breach in the line of command between the commander and the Commodore. And we do need to find out what, if anything, happened in that space.
Prosecutor, weak ass. I am curious indeed that if there is some sort of breakdown of communication, does that not seem more like a security issue?
I would also remind the prosecutor, as prosecutor, you were not to give leading questions to witnesses.
That did seem particularly leading.
I will refrain from such questions in the future, Captain.
Yes, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Boy, it's just like darting back and forth. Just
yeah,
like
it says Azir just kind of looking, just looking between everybody along with you, Volkaya, and
just
Zazir.
Like, getting hot.
Yeah, Zazir just kind of shakes her head and goes, "Prosecutor, do you have anything else for this witness?"
One last question, Commander.
Yes, sir.
How would you describe the Commodore's command style?
Well, I guess I would describe it as most Vulcans, sir. Very logical, constantly striving for a balance, I would say, on this station.
Very good.
Commander, if I may, Commander Witness, would you say that it would be a surprise to you if you were to find out that the Commodore here were somehow in cahoots with the Klingons?
I would say that would more than surprise me, sir. I would put my commission on the fact that the Commodore would never be in cahoots, as you say, or do any dealings with anybody not already affiliated with the lines of Starfleet.
And aside from this particular command, how long have you been acquainted with the said Commodore?
Not that it should color anything I have to say in this uniform, but I've known her since before I was in Starfleet.
Well, Captain Johnson would turn to the other captains. I do think it is relevant if someone does know someone for longer, regardless of the uniform, as it were.
Yes, sir. I was practically raised by the Commodore.
Very good.
But as you would know, Vulcans don't necessarily have a habit of putting emotion at the forefront of their decisions, and the Commodore definitely does not give me any special treatment on this station.
I would leave that to Captain Varai.
So to save Okaya from having to talk to herself, it's at this point that Zazir once again looks to Weak Ass and says, "Are you done with this witness? Can she leave the stand?"
I believe we are done with this witness for the time being, yes.
Very good. Your next witness.
I believe for our next witness, I would like to call Commander Callahan.
Same thing happens to you, Callahan. You get brought center stage, you're read in, and you're now at the mercy of Peter, who I'm sure you're loving just staring across the table at him as he interrogates you. And the best part is that now Ars can now play Captain Vuri and ask her own questions. So it's just a smorgasbord of fun for you.
My goodness.
Commander Callahan, how long have you been acquainted with the Commodore?
That was my question. I would just like to point that out.
Well, should I address the prosecutor or the board, who is apparently also the assistant prosecutor, with how much they're speaking up, sir?
I think Zazir is going to say, just answer the question, Commander. And Johnson, maybe let the prosecutor make their own case. Maybe just a little bit. Just a little bit.
I don't know that I trust the look of the prosecutor, but
why? Because he's
really
a Tellarite?
How
captains of their.
suggest?
I have some serious inquiries of this trial when we have one of the board members having underlying prejudicial thoughts toward the lead prosecutor. I do not think this is a fair trial if we are having squabbling among those who are adjudicating the court-martial.
Commander, I would have you know, you will know damn well when we are squabbling. Please answer the question.
That sounded a lot like a squabble from where I come from. Is this the time I'm supposed to know?
Well, we don't come from the same place, I do believe. Now, please answer the prosecution's question.
Yes, I have known the Commodore. Let's see. Next week would be a Thursday. Well, 30 plus years of my life.
And for how long of that time have you served under her?
Let's see, going on, I've been at Showa Station for however long we've been at Showa Station. I've lost track at this point. At that point.
When you were not under her command, how long have you observed her command?
Seeing as I've never been under her command until now, I don't know if I can answer that question.
I suppose I should reframe that. Since you have been acquaintances for such a long period of time, has there ever been a point where you have discussed command decisions, not in detail, of course, because that would be a breach, but has there ever been a point where you have discussed the Commodore's command thought process?
No, before this, it was usually being scolded because either myself and her son was getting into trouble.
During any of those scoldings, did it ever seem to you like the Commodore where do you think she was making those decisions for those scoldings?
From being a mother, you don't have kids, do you?
No.
Then anyone else on the board has had young ones of their own or have been guardians of young ones. It's you parent based on what the decision's coming to. You don't parent based on your same command style of people. You do not treat children the same way you treat Starfleet officers.
I do have a question.
Of course you do.
Prosecutor Weak Ass, was it again? I do have a question.
Yes, Captain.
Yes, well, this leads me to wonder about, we've heard word that Commander Callahan, you have recently taken on a minor yourself. Are you authorized to be a parent?
I never fully legally adopted anyone. I just took an orphan whose people assigned him to be a child assassin and decided to remove him from that terrible situation. I feel like us as Starfleet should be against the use of child soldiers and especially child political assassination, or the members of the board saying I should support that sort of behavior from those around me.
I don't believe any members of the board are suggesting that we round up the children and cause them to fight one another. But I am curious if you were planning to fill out the appropriate paperwork to have this very tall child in your guardianship.
I was getting to it, but I saw a phaser blast from a certain spaceship destroyed the computer it did. I really hope that didn't come from the Shepherd. That'd be kind of awkward now, wouldn't it?
I believe this witness is being hostile toward the judges.
I believe I'm matching the energy of the judge is giving to me when they were specifically told to let the prosecutor do their job.
And Zazir gets the gavel, bangs it very heavily like 3 times, says, "Order, order, both of you, put the dicks away. We're not doing a dick measuring contest. No." All right.
And
I
with
will
that,
have you know, if we were to be measuring any dicks, it would be very obvious. Thank you very much.
I'm
You have
not
a
going to
giant
touch
truck,
that.
don't
Nope.
you, as well, Captain?
Children, behave. If I have to turn this courtroom around, I will.
Please do.
and with that, Captain Viri is just like standing there, typical like Vulcan clearing her throat, like waiting for you guys to stop talking. And
Mhm.
she asks, Commander, when you're talking about the incidents of the Commodore scolding you, do you reflect back on these with her being emotional?
No, I reflect on both myself and her son being really idiot teenagers, especially being one of the few humans on Vulcan.
And she handled this by scolding you how? Yelling?
Is that relevant to how someone parents when we're dealing with this? I don't see how this is pertinent to the situation at hand. Can you please tell me why this information is pertinent to this court martial?
Zazir nods. I agreed, Captain. Where are you going with this?
Well, we didn't really think it was pertinent until the commander had brought it up, but possibly this goes farther back, not just to a Starfleet issue, but to an issue of the Commodore not being able to keep her emotions in check. No further questions at this moment.
That
And then-
seems like an interesting statement to leave out before no further questions. If it's not pertinent, and are we going to sit here and
The
judge?
witness does not
everyone's
ask
behavior?
questions. We ask the questions.
I'm making a statement, not a
Agreed.
question.
No further questions at this time.
Zazir takes a look around the courtroom, sees that emotions are high, and says, "We're going to take a 5-minute recess. I suggest everybody involved get a clear head, take a walk, do whatever you need to do to not make a mockery of justice in my courtroom in the future. Thank you." Bangs the gavel twice, stands up, leaves. While this is happening, Callahan, you're approached by the defense, and the defense is this, like, what's the word I want to use for them? Let's call them diminutive Tellarite. Speaks with a very high-pitched voice and says, I just want to commend you on the fact that you were doing very well under pressure, and that I'm pretty sure that weak ass isn't going really hard on you. Also, this is my real voice, in case you were wondering. I'm not making this up. This is my actual voice.
I think we've met in passing before. I appreciate everything that you're doing. And does it me or does board seem very hostile?
Well, I don't think they're so much hostile towards you as I think they're hostile towards what they might see as a, what's the right word I want to use here? Compromised Commodore.
Yes, but this is supposed to be a place of justice. Innocent until proven guilty. It seems like their decisions have already been made.
I don't think that much. If I thought their minds were made up, I would have objected. Also, I just remembered this Tellarite's name. It's Mickey, literally like Mick with key. So whatever. Carry on.
I was hoping it would be.
Love it.
Wasn't as good until I heard the name and then locked in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But no, honestly, I think they're maybe just gonna give you a little bit of a reprimand for being mouthy towards them, but I think you're fine. I am worried about the Commodore, though. they kind of have been pointing towards her being compromised, which again, bad thing.
I still don't see any evidence of that.
Well, as that's happening, Commodore, what are you doing?
Just sitting there stoically, really, at the moment.
Okay.
Just watching the tennis match, as it were.
Okay. And then let's go down to the captains. Captain Vree, what are you thinking at the moment?
Yeah, she pretty much like exactly what she said. She seems pretty old school Vulcan, and the fact that they probably don't like, she's taking a different angle, right? Maybe doesn't have anything to get her on the harsher side of it, because she's not going to interrogate her that way. But seeing if she can ruffle some feathers, like literally on the on how she was handling it, like on the Vulcan side of things, not the Starfleet side of things.
Gotcha. All right, Captain Johnson, what are your thoughts at this moment?
Well, I must say Captain Johnson has taken an instantaneous and major dislike to Commander Callahan. He finds him to be uppity. He finds him to have a big mouth on him. But as far as the case itself goes, I believe that Captain Johnson, John Johnson, is still in the middle, has not made any firm decisions in one way or another.
I just want you to know that I'm going to find a way to just have Johnson show up every once in a while, because this is fun. I'm enjoying the hell out of this. And then, of course, I want to hear from both Callahan and Richardson. What are you guys thinking at the moment?
Well, Richardson is sitting there and thinking that Commodore definitely has some conflict of interest with the amount of personal people they have on the station. It seems like the actions, there was probably, at the very least, need some free training on how to handle certain protocols by sending the entire command staff out into unknown space. Probably not the smartest idea, but doesn't seem any evidence yet of actual malice or treason against Starfleet.
What about Callahan himself? I just get the vibe that Callahan would almost throw a chair if he could do it.
Oh, Callahan is pissed with how this is being handled. Seems like the mockery of the trial is coming from the people that are running it. Is not happy at all.
Of course, if we actually ran this like a true courtroom, it wouldn't be fun. So, of course, we got to have the wackiness. All right. So we take the in-character 5-minute break. Everybody comes back into the courtroom refreshed. Everybody's calmed down a little bit. Zazir taps the gavel 2 times and says, "All right, Prosecutor Weekass, who you want to call up to the stand next, please?"
First, I think we should speak to Commander Shishishta about that security question.
Shishi, same thing. Center stage, right in. Floor is prosecutors. And I guess if you want to talk to yourself, you can do Johnson talking to her. That's your call.
Oh, you just wait.
Commander Shishishta, you are aware of the code that was brought to the station via the various Kozo bots. I assume that you've seen some of the proceedings and you know the line of questioning that has been going on here.
I'm aware there was some sort of a virus that had made its way aboard, suited within the Kozo robots.
Yes. There is a question as to the location and accessibility of this code as it was being held in the possession of the Showa Station command staff from the station itself to the ship that transported you to Kozo Prime. The question is was there a possibility of the security of this code being compromised?
Leading.
Are you suggesting that I do not have a good hold on security? Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm merely asking
Prosecutor.
for the possibility, Commander.
There's always a possibility that any sort of security can be breached. But it seems that you're very specifically asking if my security was lax.
What if it was lax?
I have to say,
What
I
if
believe
there
we have
was
a
a way
hostile
for
witness here. We have a hostile witness. No, I don't
waves her hand
believe-
and allows it.
I don't believe that there was any way that the code could have mischievously escaped.
Prosecutor, is that how codes work? Can they just jump from system to system, or does someone have to be actively doing that?
Generally, unless they are coded to do so, they need external forces to move them from one system to another.
Well, I am not a master of coding, as you might be trying to suggest, but I do know that no one among the command had any part of actively sending this code anywhere but the places that it revealed itself obviously, such as in the bots and in obvious ways, as you already had questioned Commander Vakaya.
Was a copy of the code left on the station when you departed?
I don't know why you're asking me that. That's not my job.
Well, if you were quarantining it to keep it safe, would you know
It's
where
not
each
a
copy of it was?
person. It's not a person. It's a code. It's not something that I can just put into the brig.
Prosecutor, if you remember the logs, Commander Shishista literally threw infected robots out of an airlock.
I did. They exploded. It was glorious. So I must ask you, Commander Shishista, is that correct? So if it is true that you supposedly put some of these robots out of the station and blew them up, is this suggesting that you have some sort of a desire for sowing the seeds of chaos among the Kozo between themselves and their android companions, robot companions? Captain Johnson is looking at the other captains. I'm not really sure what the best way to describe them would be.
Servants, maybe?
Robot.
Droid army.
Inhuman companions. I did not gain any joy from putting a robot that was actively trying to kill a leader representative of a nearby planet into space in order to protect said leader. No further questions at this time.
Very well. Unless there are further questions from the board.
Why did you have to throw the bots into space? What led up to that scenario and the discovery of this code?
The bot literally pulled a weapon on the King of Kozo Prime and tried to assassinate him.
I feel like that's very pertinent information that the board should consider.
It was all written in my reports. I would hope that the board had thoroughly read over the information. But yes, the robot was trying to assassinate the king, and in saving the ruler's life, we ejected the robot from the station and blew it up.
So Zazir looks around, sees that nobody has anything else, and says, Commander Shishista, you may step down. And prosecution, I already know what you're going to ask next, so Commodore Taraz, if you would be so kind.
To stand and assume her position.
Commodore, what would you describe your responsibility to this station?
Well, I am certainly responsible for the safety of everyone on the station, as well as pursuing the goals and statutes of the Federation in the area.
Does that duty also include making sure that the station remains safe even when you are not present?
Indeed, it does.
Would you say that you have fulfilled that duty in this instance?
Considering we are still on Showa Station, yes. I am quite proud of my crew.
Prosecutor Weak-Ass, I do have another question.
You may ask your question, Captain.
Yes, Commodore, I wonder what would you say went into the decision to have the primary amount of senior crew join you on this escapade?
Well, I believe there is a Terran saying about taking care of your own backyard. Since Kozo Prime is in such close proximity to us, it felt overly prudent for us to not only visit them, but have them aware of the senior staff on the station. As far as my personal involvement, we had hoped we may act as a third party mediating a dispute, but we made no promises.
When you departed the station, Commodore, was there any possibility of danger to the station in a recurring form?
No, there was not at that time.
So at that time, you did not have the possible connection to the Klingons with the Kozo.
Correct. It was only after we were on Kozo Prime that we learned of the Klingon involvement.
Which officer did you leave in charge of the station?
I don't believe it would have been Wazowski. There would have been some other non-name.
No, there was another commander who unfortunately perished in the attack, but you would have left a commander in charge. It wasn't a big rank difference.
This commander shall not be named.
Mm-hmm.
Commander not appearing in the battle was, he was definitely in charge.
Mm.
It was left to the most senior officer left on board the station. Since this was a diplomatic matter, I wanted Callahan involved. Since Vokaya had been aware of the Kozo technology and had found the Klingon virus, I wanted her involved. And Shishista had proven quite formidable against the Kozo bots. So both her and the princess were brought for security.
At this point, that Zazir kind of straightens up in her seat a little bit. Her antenna kind of do that Andorian thing where they focus in towards the center. Also, Kitty. They focus in towards the center, and she asks, I want to be very clear on what you just said, Commodore, that you brought Callahan and Vokaya along because you needed them on this mission. Is that a correct summarization of what you just said?
Yes, it is.
Very good. Then can you explain why it is that, according to the reports I'm seeing, that the same code, which has been integral to discussion so far, how it ended up within the Kozo's possession? And if I need to be more clear, how it started what could be a full-blown civil war, or at least open conflict on Kozo Prime?
Kozo Prime was in the midst of a civil war. As we learned more and more about the two sides, as Federation officers representing Starfleet, we chose not to take a side. However, I did feel it necessary to level the playing field, as it were.
So Taraz, before you go any further, Presence Command, difficulty of 4.
Okay.
And you have 3 momentum and a complication. I think I'm just going to refund that complication. I don't think we need any more complication. I'm just going to refund that one.
All right, Presence Command.
And this will represent your ability to convince the panel of judges. Of course, they're still free to make their own call, but let's just say this will have some weight. At least that's my hope.
Okay. Any of my focuses apply?
Let's take a gander. I'm pretty sure you got to have at least one. Let's take a gander.
Is there any way any of the crew can help?
If you tell me how, yes. I would say that I'd give you negotiation in this instance.
You said difficulty of 4?
Difficulty of 4, momentum of 3, and again, if anyone wants to tell me how they're assisting the Commodore.
I would argue, if I may, that all of us have been highlighting the Commodore's ability to lead well and doing things that were necessary and such, which I feel like is helpful. Question mark?
One of you can roll presence plus your power stats. So if it's Callahan, presence command. If it's Shishista, presence security. If it's Vokaya, presence engineering. But only one of you 3 can do it.
Let me do it.
All right, do it.
All right, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and burn the 3 points if that's okay.
Okay, so the momentum is poof.
Can I use my diplomacy focus with this help?
Yep. And here comes complications. I just feel it. I lied. That is 5 successes, meaning you get a momentum right back. Well done. So yes, all I'm going to say is, again, judges, you can still make your own call, but you believe what the Commodore is saying. You believe that she had the right people for the job and that it was safe to leave the station. Anyway, I interrupted you, Commodore. You may continue.
Leveling the playing field, and as far as the virus in the Kozo bots on Kozo Prime, that was uploaded by myself.
And at this, the
crowd gets.
Yeah, there's kind of that across the courtroom, and Zazir leans in very carefully and says, I want to be extra careful when I ask this, and to confirm, you were the one that disseminated the code. Not Vokaya, not Callahan, not Shishista. You, Commodore.
That is correct.
Zazir thinks for a moment, leans back, and then looks to Weak Ass. Anything else you'd like to ask of this witness's Weak Ass at this time?
Believe that admission there, Captain, was where I was leading.
Other captains?
Prosecutor Weak Ass, I do have a question.
Yes, Captain.
Commodore, would it be fair to say that you do, in fact, trust your crew enough to maintain the station and all of your goals regarding the Kozo?
Yes, that would be fair to assume.
Yes, well, Captain Johnson is going to turn to the other captains. I will say I did not become captain by dabbling in a lot of codes and whatnot. It seems that if this code came from the Kozo bots, as I would like to call them now, is it not fair to assume that one of the Kozo members of of their planet would have equally been able to apprehend this code from these Kozo bots.
Commodore, did you ever find out where that initial code came from?
During our initial investigation, no, we were only able to determine that it was an older code, but it checked out.
Follow-up question. Is there anything that happened on Kozo Prime that was in your report that needs to be brought up again now that should have weight in these current proceedings?
I'll think on that for a moment. Just as I said, it was released by me as a means of leveling the playing field, because while both sides were committing atrocities, and there was certainly actions that we did not approve of as Starfleet officers, there was a clear advantage one side had over the other.
Commodore, I don't believe you. I don't believe I don't believe you would throw out your Starfleet loyals and logic to lend hand to give civil war, an upper hand on one side or another. But I would believe that you'd be throwing yourself under the bus for one of your crew.
It was a decision that I had to carefully consider at the time. We were leaving the planet. I had the data pad with me with the information, and I was able to upload it into their robot network.
So you're stating you pushed the button from the ship as you were leaving?
Correct.
Interesting.
Now, Commodore, you know that Starfleet taking any sort of actions on either side of a native planet's conflicts go strictly against what we agree to and advocate for as Starfleet officers.
However, Captain, this was also not a planet of a pre-warp civilization. This was a civilization of technology that rivals our own, with contacts with the Klingons and who knows who else. This is not something that it's just Starfleet is picking a side and choosing their course of history.
Zazir speaks up. I actually tend to agree with Richardson. If the Klingons weren't involved, I would definitely say this violates General Order 1, but the fact that the Klingons are involved and that the Kozo are comparable technology-wise already, I don't know. Let's do this. Weekass, do you have any further questions? Oh, sorry, Johnson, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to follow up upon that follow-up, it seems as if us not doing something when the Klingons are clearly involved could in fact be careless on our part. If the Klingons are already taking and preparing to make the Kozo their allies, it would not behoove us to allow that to happen without consequence.
But Captain, we wouldn't have known of their so-called alliance if it wasn't for this crew's actions on Kozo Prime.
Certainly. Well, I'm saying that if the crew had not performed these actions, then perhaps we would be allowing the Kozo to fall into alliance with the Klingons, and I just don't think that's a very smart idea.
I agree with you.
Anything you'd care to add to the record, Weekass?
Yes, Weekass. What do you have to add?
Fatigue Bottom, please continue.
Just one question, Commodore. When you made this decision to insert the code into the other bots, did either side formally request assistance from the Federation, or was this a decision you made on your own?
Neither side had requested Federation aid, no.
And yet you had the Federation take a side.
The Klingons are clearly arming the Kozo and helping to stir up their civil war. I felt the most logical choice was to remove one of the pieces off the playing field. Since I could not single-handedly go around confiscating every Klingon device that was left on the planets, I could certainly disable the bots from being used by Klingons in the future.
Was your code used to simply disable the bots, or was it then immediately turned around and used as a weapon for the other side?
I object to that question. I don't think it is within anyone's purview to know what exactly would happen in the future unless they were a future reader, weak ass.
I am simply asking based on a small piece of information I saw in the logs.
And these users of these robots clearly had the ability to program these robots before. What gives them the ability to not manipulate the code again?
Well, clearly this code came from the Kozo.
That is a fair point. It's not like the Commodore created the code. They had access to the code, and Starfleet just stumbled upon it.
Commodore, you said you activated this as you were leaving. So you had no way of checking whether some of the robots were disabled and some were turned against the Kozo? Is it possible that what you did just disabled some and the rebellious robots could have been from another area?
Anything is possible. I know that the code I sent was to disable.
But it is possible that a code from a different source sent the command for any more hostile actions.
If somehow a secondary signal piggybacked off of mine, certainly that's a possibility.
Did you all ever do anything to the code to do anything other than disable?
No.
Any of your staff do anything to the code to do other than disable?
No.
Presence command or presence con, difficulty of 3. No one can assist you on this. You have 1 momentum to spend. Good luck.
Alrighty.
Also, I love how everyone's cat is they're just going round robin, Rockette's got hers, ours has hers.
I cannot be left alone. He definitely wants food. I don't think it's love, it's food.
Mine is prepping the prosecutor's bed right now.
I'm going to use that 1 momentum there.
All right. Very important roll. All right. 2 successes, which means judges, again, you're free to make your own call. But what I would advise you is that the Commodore is saying one thing, but they're hiding something. You don't know what they're hiding. Out of character, we know what they're hiding. But in character, you don't know what they're hiding.
I needed 3.
Yeah, you needed 3.
Can I use my determination?
Yeah, I guess technically this is an adventure. You could spend your determination to reroll some dice here.
Okay.
I'm assuming you want to reroll those 16 and a 19 is my guess.
Yeah.
All right, well, I may amend what I just said. Just don't roll complications, because if you do, I got to add to it. Okay, that is significantly better. That is now, what is that? That's 5 successes. So, amended what I just said. You believe the Commodore. They are hiding nothing.
I have never
no
heard
further
more
questions
truth in my life. This is clearly the most truthful testimony I have ever heard. in my career as a captain.
All right, at this point, Zazir taps the gavel a few times and says, "The captains and I are going to discuss amongst ourselves. We'll be back very shortly with the verdict." The captains leave the room. Commodore, you can go back to your defendant stand. But now we need to talk out of character how to resolve things. So, the reason we did this court-martial, because I want to reveal it to everybody at this point, is that Squiff is thinking of changing characters to be the science officer for the station in Season 2. So we have the option, well, we have a few options. I'm just going to present a few. One option is we can have the Commodore simply transferred off station. She gets a posting somewhere else. We maybe say, hey, you know, you're obviously you've done the right thing, but there's conflicts of interest here. Maybe you should be somewhere else. And we just send the Commodore off that way. Another option that occurs to me is that there is enough here for, I wouldn't say a expulsion from Starfleet, but definitely kind of a stern finger wag too, where the Commodore's removed from the situation because they don't want Kozo Prime to be more inflamed than it already is, I think is how I would put it. Alternatively, and, you know, Squiff would have to sign off on this, we could keep the Commodore here, but there would, again, be kind of a stern finger wagging, you know, hey, don't do that again, kind of a thing. But interestingly, I think each of you has kind of come to a decision in character, and I'm curious what that is. And I'm going to start with Captain Richardson here. What are your thoughts on this matter?
I think the Commodore should be expunged of all wrongdoing, but with the conflict of interest and the inflamed situation on Kozo, a transfer is probably in the best interest of Starfleet and the station.
All right. I'm going to break order. We're going to go to Commander Vree. What are you thinking?
I guess since the Commodore she definitely didn't believe her before the roll. If the roll wouldn't have been successful, she definitely thought she was not being it wasn't making any sense. She wasn't being logical. But because that roll was successful, I guess she doesn't have really, as much as I want her to, she doesn't really have any reason to be suspicious of anything, right? So if anything, I'm not sure about these times back then, but weren't Vulcan high commands a little bit more in Starfleet's business about this kind of stuff?
They were tremendously, yeah.
Right. So I think that's more her role. She just maybe wouldn't think it would, she just thinks there's more to it still, or, you know, she would be reporting, let Starfleet do their thing, but she would still be reporting it back to the Vulcan side of things to maybe, you know, recommend you need to go meditate at a temple for a little bit, possibly.
I love it. And of course, our favorite captain, Captain John Johnston, what are you thinking at this moment?
Captain Johnson must say that he does feel like the Commodore made the correct decision, because we cannot have these Kozo bots falling into Klingon hands. However, that being said, Captain Johnson does believe there should be some disciplinary scolding of some kind, whether or not the Commodore is put on a temporary leave, or whether or not, I don't know that the captain would necessarily feel that a permanent transfer is in order, but a temporary one, certainly.
Yeah, sorry, agreed. At the end there, not so much permanent transfer or even transfer necessarily she'd be recommending,
but a leave of sorts.
Exactly.
Captain Johnson does like the idea of sending the Commodore to a temple.
All right, then I think I have the perfect way to resolve this. So 10 minutes pass, captains filter back in the room. Zazir taps the bell a few times, then stands and says, "After deliberation, I am pleased to report that we have decided that neither the Commodore nor her officers will be receiving direct disciplinary records for this incident. However," and she looks very pointedly at you, Taraz, "we do feel it is within the Commodore's best interests to take a temporary leave of absence, perhaps to return to Vulcan and meditate on matters at hand. In the meantime, turning to Commander Callahan in the audience, we will have Commander Callahan preside over the station until the Commodore feels that she is ready to come back and fulfill her duty as she has been. This court is adjourned. Taps the bell a few times, and the captains filter out, and you all are back to your normal characters in the courtroom audience as, well, the trial's over.
I did not see that coming.
That went about as well as I expected.
I'm very happy.
Commander Callahan as Commander. I'll tighten up the security minions.
Perfect. Also, Commodore, thank you.
You're going to get the faintest of friendly smiles, Sean.
And I'm just going to look and like, still doesn't feel right.
It would have been a greater tragedy for the three of you to not be on the station.
Yeah, Vakoya disagrees. She's definitely not happy with Callahan not stepping up.
Stepping up, he was ready to throw a chair at the cat.
Yeah, no, I mean for not for letting Taraz take the fall. Like when he was the one who ordered the transfer of the code. And was literally raised by Taraz, right? So in her mind, she's definitely not like as calm about it. Or understanding about it, I would get.
But I would at least know that if I had said anything, both of us would have gone down because they wouldn't have cared that I gave you the order. You would have been hit with it as well. There was no way. And with the Commodore doing that, I've known her long enough. That decision was final. And she would go down fighting and saying that we are crazy. And we didn't do that.
She definitely understands that and knows it, but isn't happy about it at all.
Taraz
She wasn't there,
just gonna,
so.
Taraz is gonna just place a hand on Vokaya's shoulder. Vokaya would feel like, they'd be. I know somehow you would get that impression. The light squeeze.
Yeah.
However, that would work for your species.
Hold up. Do I still have a complication?
We're trying to do the nerve pinch.
Yeah, hold on.
Right now.
Ladies and
just
gentlemen, and
calming?
everything in between,
calming me
I still
down.
have a complication. Taraz, you've nerve pinched Volkaya, and she just goes on the floor. That is our complication. Thank you, chat. Thank you.
I don't think that was as helpful as you meant it to be.
It was.
Commodore.
It was supposed to be a comforting pats.
I mean, she did need some sleep.
She has seemed rather stressed lately.
And she's going to be really busy tightening up the digital security of Showa Station while you get the physical underway. She's going to be very busy when she comes to.
Mm.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, I guess we need a medical team.
I was gonna say you just all walk away from me on the corridor.
I'm going to pick her up and carry her to medical because I know she's already mad. So at least doing
Appreciate
this will help mitigate something.
Well, it would, definitely. We each have an arm, and
Oh,
There you go. And as you all, of course, lead them to the clinic on the promenade, because it's the only thing that's open for medical right now, we just take kind of a side shot at the Ferengi Brothers little stand. And now not only are they selling the first Battle of Showa Station, they're now selling the first court-martial of Showa Station, too. So they got new t-shirts and mugs and everything else you can buy there.
Oh,
But,
and you know that Captain Johnson is at the front of the line, like trying on some shirts, holding up, getting an armful of mugs and hats.
there's got to be a shirt with a very unflattering picture of Taraz, and it says, "I knew the Commodore."
Oh my god. As all that's happening, we zoom out of one of the windows of the promenade, and we see the station
Commodore.
itself more or less coming together. The slice that was taken out of it has been slotted back in. But then as we start to fade to black, we see that little model of the station just sort of cartwheeling across the screen. And then we see to be continued. And that is going to be the end of season 1 of Showa Station. Well done, everybody. Well done. I do want to give everybody big props. I basically came to them about 10 minutes before the session. I'm like, so do you guys want to do a court-martial? Because we could do a court-martial. And everybody was on board. They did admirably, in my opinion. I do want to give special thanks to everybody for indulging my crazy idea on that front.
Awesome.
Also, I have to point out, who is it? The real evil Steve had said Tantula's 5 ? And I completely misread it as Tarantula's 5.
Oh, God.
Which I think has a very different vibe to it.
Yeah, just a little, just a tiny bit arachnophobic, but I'm sure that's fine. Anyways,
Thank you, Peter.
Taraz, you want to talk about your new character while we're on screen, or you want to save it for season 2 reveal?
Mysterious science officer.
All right, Mysterious Science Officer B. All right, well, Twitch, stick around because we're going to raid somebody, but YouTube, this was where we'll say goodbye. See you later.